Gordon, today I got a very good question for you. Why these days we do the gong bass? It's not only striking the gong, also we do other instruments like singing bowl, sometimes singing bowl, drum. Why? And before you answer, I'd like to ask you, if you like this video, give us a thumb up and subscribe and press the notification bell because you can get our new video very quick. Yes?
Yeah, some people call actually healing gong bath has become broadened, I suppose, is the term. Many people use the word sound bath or sound immersion. It's also very popular now.
Yeah.
In fact, in America, somebody's trademarked the name gong bath, and so people can't even use gong bath. I actually quite like the sound, the term sound immersion, because it's also very descriptive, like gong bath is, of what we're actually doing. That doesn't entirely answer your question, but I'm going to come to that now.
Yeah. Why we're not only striking the gong during no matter gong bass or sound bass or sound immersion?
As you know, viewers who've watched many of these or some of our videos in the past, I like to talk about my personal experience. Yes. So personally, what I found when I started playing the gongs years ago was that was my only interest. I was so entranced by the sound of the gongs. I was so taken with it. I was so involved with exploring the sounds of different gongs and playing them together that I really wasn't that bothered about other instruments at all. I mean, that was what I was interested in. That's what I played, and that was that.
But although you are a musician,
even that, yes, indeed, that makes perhaps even more surprising. But for some time, that was my focus. Yeah. And I think actually it is. For experience of teaching now for some time, that's also parallels I feel as though the trajectory of many of our students. They come and they want to play the gong, and they're not that bothered about anything else. Even though we might teach and try and encourage them to play other instruments. Now, sometime later, I began to get interested.
Finally.
Finally. And I can't remember exactly what instruments. I think perhaps singing bowls. I know what happened. I started collaborating with
somebody else.
With somebody else who had, apart from gongs, was a multi-instrumentalist. My dear, I should give her a name check. My dear former colleague Jackie Atwood back in England, who now spends a lot of her time elsewhere in Europe, but she's a wonderful music therapist and multi-instrumentalist who introduced me to the idea of playing with crystal bowls and singing bowls, and she has a wonderful collection of some of Southeast Asian gamelan instruments. That really turned me on to this, and we got some great, and I really got into exploring the possibilities of joining different instruments together. Now, the actual question you asked was, why do we do it? Which I think is also, why do we do it? Well, it's a lovely way of introducing variety into our gong playing, our gong bars, our sound immersions, whatever you want to call it.
But why variety is important?
Variety is always good. Variety is good when you're just playing gongs to introduce different rhythms, different timbres and so on, playing with different mallets, with different levels of volume and crescendos and so on.
Yeah.
So variety is really important. So you create waves. We've talked about this before, but other instruments bring other timbres, and we can, very often we like to structure gong bars, particularly if we're playing with other people. We need to have a bit more structure in gong bars, and that's. Introducing other instruments is also a lovely way of structuring gong bars. So you can start with not with gongs at the beginning. You could start with I mentioned singing bowls and crystal bowls, which are very popular amongst gong players. They work very well. But there's a multitude of instruments that you can use. I don't want to list them all, but...
I still haven't replied me why.
Well, I have. The structure and variety. Those are the two key.
Why variety is important?
I think it creates a linearity. The word that I like to use is linearity. We're moving through a journey in a gong bar, and if we introduce different sounds and different varieties of sounds, it takes us into perhaps other dimensions that we otherwise wouldn't go into. It also creates, I think, there's a difference between the full-on bouquet of gongs and the different tonality and the quality of the sound, the nature of the sound of a singing bowl or a crystal bowl or a pipe or a tank drum, or all these variety of instruments we can use. The other thing that's great with these instruments is that many of them work fantastically well with the gongs.
Oh yes. I want to add on the feedback from our audience is many people tell us that when they are in the long gong bass, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, and if we change the instrument, they change their mind. They can notice a way like somebody in the very deep sleep, and when we change instrument, they kind of a bit half sleep. They away the surrounding, and they change their scenario, and they can have a time to reset, right?
Yeah, that's actually a really good way you've described that, Eiling. Another way you can look at it is if the gong bath or the sound bath is a story, then introducing another set of instruments is like turning over the page to a new chapter.
Oh yeah,
so
new chapter.
You structure a gong bath like chapters of a book. I often suggest this to students. Perhaps I ought to do it more, because I think it's a very good way of approaching this. But I would, talking about my personal experience, what are my favourite instruments to use with gongs in gong bars? I think that's what I'd like to say.
Hold on, before that, I want to also add on some sharing from the feedback from people. It's a reset their mind, and also some people during the gong bass, in the end, the feedback is that they particularly some instruments. It's kind of a surprise for them. They didn't expect they come to a gong bass and they say, oh, what's that? That's beautiful. It's like an angel, and something is impressed or amazed, and also the surprise. And also, it's not so boring. That's a variety, right? Otherwise, people fall to sleep.
It can be tricky. Sometimes people come up to me afterwards and say, "What was that sound like? A budgerigar, whatever, like the waves, whatever it is that they can think of." And it can be sometimes a bit difficult to pinpoint actually what it is that they're talking about.
And also, we talk about sleep. Many people fall to sleep if play the gong like flat, like waves. And they don't have chance to, I say that, reset their mind, they be more aware. I am in the gong bass. I don't need to sleep always through. They can have a break, come out, to aware what they are doing. Maybe they don't go to sleep.
This was a subject of another video we made, didn't we? It's nice if people are able to remain conscious of what's going on, because they're going to a higher level of state of consciousness if they do.
So the variety, especially in the middle, is a kind of break. It's a kind of window for them to change.
I mean, I like to think that we can have structures that aren't simply a beginning, middle, and end, crescendo, diminuendo. That it can actually be more organic than that. That if we bring, say, for example, I'm going to cite one instrument that I never really liked on its own, but I love with the sound of the gongs, which are crystal bowls. Eiling now has a complete chakra set of 7 crystal bowls, and it's great working with them on their own. Or, in particular, at the beginning of a gong bath, you can introduce them, but then bring the gongs in with them. And this is really, really fantastic.
Yes,
you know, I really like this.
Nowadays, the gong player is not only playing the gong. Also, we got to learn some different instruments and familiar to play good, right?
This is the other point, really. When I got... after I started collaborating with Jackie, and still more so when I met you, because you really encouraged me to embrace other instruments. And I started playing instruments which I really hadn't considered too much before, or I wasn't that bothered about playing them. Ones that I really started to embrace were the shruti box, which is great, as we know, with singing. Voice, of course. Yeah. The other one connects with the voice of the pipe. My overtone pipes that I really love to play.
And can I say that not only the gong, so-called gong bass, but the people, if they used to play the singing bowl, because the singing bowl is more, history is longer, to do the singing bowl therapy. So also singing bowl, they can do some other instrument to go with.
I mean, I think there's many, I mean, singing bowls are really like gongs in this regard. They will, and particularly individual singing bowls will go fantastically well with other metal instruments like chimes, particularly. I think also they go well with pipes, bird whistles, crystal bowls as well. Before we go,
if you'd like to come to our gong bass or gong training, please see below. We see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye.